Welcome to this week's cocktail hour. Wait, what are we calling this? This is the Arsenal Vision pre-match, post-match, live show, live stream, cocktail hour, thingamajig. I don't know. What are we calling this? Do we know what we're calling this? We don't know what we're calling this, but we're doing this. And if you are watching, you might be one of the rare people watching because I sent out the wrong link before. I had to change the link. This is the correct link, which you will know because you are watching on this link. So thank you so much for watching. We love you. We're glad you're here. And we're going to try to make this a weekly thing. We're going to look ahead to this week's fixtures, and we're going to do it with my friend Scott. You can find him on Twitter at Scott J. Wills. Hello, Scott.
Yeah. I was joining in, and I got to meet many interesting people when you sent out
the Disco Boys.
Yes.
Disco Boys.
So, all
you
sorts
got
of
to meet
fun.
the Disco Boys. Well, that's my fault, but we fixed it. Scott, can we get to the crux of the matter real quick? We have a really, really important topic to talk about. And then we're going to take questions. We're going to take questions about the upcoming matches. We're going to talk Tottenham playing Manchester United in what should be a really fun shit show of bad teams. But this is the question on everyone's lips. Where can you block me now? Okay,
Nowhere.
where can you block me now? Because there's news that Elon, in his wisdom, is removing the block feature from X, which we're going to still call Twitter. My thing is to say you can block me on Twitter, Yankee Gunner. If you cannot block me on Twitter, Yankee Gunner, what do I say now and what do we do? This is a crisis for the podcast.
It absolutely is a crisis. And it's funny, like I was just finally getting on board with actually blocking people on Twitter because I've for the longest time just kind of like, whatever. But once you reach almost like a certain number of followers, like you have to do it, start using it a little bit. Especially, fans of other teams that, kind of come out there with just unhinged takes. And it's like,
Scott, it's even simpler than that. It's the check out my crypto scam or oh, you'll never believe this deal that you can get at this place. Like there's just so much scamming going on in the replies. If you don't block those things, it becomes unusable,
Absolutely. So yeah, it's a weird one. But yeah, I guess we're just gonna have to mute everybody now. So everybody else will have to see these weird people in our mentions and sending us things, but they'll just hopefully go out into a void eventually. But yeah, it's such a weird thing. When do you think the CEO actually learned that this was something that was happening? Do you think she learned it at the same time that everybody else did? Or do you think that he actually had like a meeting with her and said, hey, we're going to put this on the product roadmap and, those kinds of things?
I think the CEO is getting the Silence of the Lambs treatment and is told it puts the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again. Like I honestly, I feel so bad I don't feel bad for anyone who's taken a CEO position is probably being well compensated for it, but certainly not being put in a good position in terms of her credibility, her professional responsibility. Look, it is what it is. It's owned by one guy. That guy runs it. He runs it the way just a hyperactive user with day-to-day views on what the platform should be should run it. I just think, honestly, the crux of the issue and the matter that we deal with now is I can't say you can block. Well, for the time being, you can still block me on Twitter, and I still strongly recommend it, but we'll see. We are going to look at the Premier League weekend matchups, and we are going to take your questions and comments as we go into this. But like the CEO of Twitter is Tom from Succession, a pain sponge. That is, honestly, that is a really, really good comparison. But, if they're going to pay you enough for it, oh, now come on. He runs it like the transfer channel on the Disco. I do, as we always have to do, say love to the Disco Boys who always show up and then have crazy things to say in the chat. If you want to be on our Discord, you can sign up for Patreon and get there. Okay, so Scott, let's do this. Let's start with what weekend matchups you're most excited about. I assume that Spurs United game is the one you're thinking of. And by the way, once you get your questions in the chat, we'll start popping them up. We'll get this going. We'll get some predictions, explanations of games we're excited about and the matchups that we think are going to be interesting.
Maybe I'm going to zig and say I'm more excited for the later Saturday match, the Oil Derby, the Manchester City versus Newcastle. I think that one's going to be a little bit more pertinent to where I think I have our sights set for where we want to be at the end of the table. I think that one will be real. I mean, Newcastle looked really good against Aston Villa, but I think I don't know if how much do you weigh Aston Villa looked like total garbage and really, really seemed to have played into what Aston Villa wanted to do versus how good Newcastle is. And then there's I think Manchester City have some interesting questions about them. they've now had 2 draws in their last 3 matches. One match, the only match they've actually won in regulation is the match against Burnley, who just came up. And even then, I thought they looked a little bit uncomfortable with some of the press that Burnley were able to do against them last Friday. So I think that's going to be the one that I'm more interested in. But I do want to see Manchester United struggle again against Tottenham.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds good to me. I would like to see that too. Let's do this. Well, so with Manchester City having played in midweek in hot weather, I'm stretching here with no Kevin De Bruyne. Like, I don't think it's out of the question that they could struggle in this match. That it could be a struggle for them. Do you think Foden will be able to fill in for De Bruyne just as the go forward guy?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've always rated Foden as a guy that I like, and I think he's got a lot of talent, and I think that they've had the extra benefit of being able to bring him along slowly and be able to, I guess, work him into the team a little bit more without huge expectations on him. So I think that, this is now his time to be able to shine. And I think that he has the talent to do it. It's always a big question if he's going to be able to step into those big of a shoe. Kevin De Bruyne has been arguably the best creative player outside of Messi since, I guess Mesut Ozil really declined. Even then at the end of, Mesut Ozil's year, De Bruyne was being able to do some really interesting things. So I think this is a really big blow for them, on top of, losing Gundogan. So like that's, 2/3 of the midfield that really a lot of things kind of flowed through are now gone.
Yeah, I think, look, I think the City Newcastle game will be interesting because it's a chance to see if City might be vulnerable this season, but also see if what we saw from Newcastle in the first week was real, right? Because they dominated it. Unai Emery's second season Villa team that made a few mistakes and then looked like they gave up. I want to ask you about Spurs United, though. I think the Spurs United game is a fascinating one. You could make an argument based on expectations that Manchester United were the worst team of match week 1 in terms of just the performance they put up and the weaknesses they showed as a team. So you want to quickly talk about what happened with United there? Because anyone who didn't see I get it. If you didn't see the game, you'd be like, all right, they played poorly and they won. It can happen. They had 24 shots allowed, 17 in the box, and even more than the shots allowed. That was the worst attack in the Premier League last season, basically. Yeah. They ran through them, Scott. That Mount, Bruno, and Casemiro midfield was just like a runway. It's like the guy at the airport with the thing saying this way. They couldn't stop anybody. It was really, really interesting and lovely.
It absolutely was. I had, I know you are not a Mount truther by any stretch of the imagination, but this was kind of like the worst nightmare of what I imagined could happen with him there. It was just, he kind of came in and is replacing Eriksen. And I think people in their mind have this idea of what Eriksen was when he was at Spurs, where he was an advanced midfielder, being able to do things. But really, by the end of his career, Eriksen was the ball progressor there. And taking him out of that team left a massive hole where a lot of things fell onto Casemiro's shoulders. And like, he is just not that guy at all, to be able to, he's a guy that you put there to shield the team, not to help, progress the ball through midfield, to be able to do those things. And it's like, you watch them build up and it was just Casemiro there on an island. And it almost kind of looked like some of the Wenger years where we would push all of our players so far forward, and then you'd kind of expect someone else to just do something magical, but they're expecting Casemiro to do something magical or Aaron Wan-Bissaka to do something magical. And it's just like, this is not something that absolutely worked. Like they tried to do, Eric Ten Hag tried to do, the inverted fullbacks, and it just didn't work at all. It was, really, really bizarre where like that buildup seems absolutely broken. Not to mention they gave up the second most touches in the box out of any team in the league. And like, that is just hilarious.
Do you see, so the interesting thing is I'm not sure who at Tottenham is going to do to United what those Wolves players did. I mean, no one would really say that's a fantastic Wolves team, but I thought that their trio of attackers did a nice job making really direct, aggressive runs to push Manchester United back. Who's going to have the responsibility for doing that for Tottenham? I mean, Son doesn't have the legs for it anymore.
Yeah.
Really. I don't. Richarlison, I guess he could do it, but from the center forward position, I'm not sure he's as comfortable doing that. Who's going to be the one to really drive at United and push them back?
Yeah, that might be the problem, right? Because I don't think Tottenham are really built for this style of play anymore. They're still like a team that's in that weird transition of going from a sit back deep and soak up and look to play on more of like a transition versus going up forward, right? Because it's like you even think like James Madison, like I don't really see him as a great presser. He might be the best out of what they actually have in that team, but that's a pretty low bar to clear. So it might be hard for them to be able to kind of replicate unless they, do some sort of else change to be able to bring something else in. I don't know. Do you see them trying to replicate Wolves?
I mean, I think Ange wants to control possession. This is the one thing, like, I think United are walking into, I hate to say it, guys, and tell me if you disagree in the chat, which I'm sure you will. Tell me if you disagree. I think Ange wants to control possession. Ange wants to play the football in the attacking third. He doesn't necessarily have the talent to do it as effectively as he might like. United are actually quite good on the counterattack. I think they fooled a lot of people last season because they were allowed to play on the counter more. And when they play on the counter, they can turn teams around and be effective. They have players that are good running at teams in transition, right? Bruno can distribute from deep effectively on the counter. Casemiro, no legs left, but really good at distributing deep from the counter. And I think Spurs will give them the opportunity to play that way. This could be a weird season where United are quite good against the teams that play football and look really bad against the teams that don't. And so I just think, this is a potentially really rough spot for Spurs because I don't know if they're fully ready to play Ange ball yet. And United, if they're going to be good at anything, it's going to probably be countering against that. That's my fear for this game. Now, that fear would result in Spurs losing at home, which is always fine with me. But I kind of want both of these teams to get sucked into a hole in the ground or a Godzilla attack or something like that.
Right. It's like you're just leaning a little bit too far into your whiskers, right? You're worrying about a team that's not Arsenal here almost. But I think it is also interesting, right? Because it's like I think Erik ten Hag like wants to play a certain style. And like he tried, you could almost like see it like in the first 4 matches last year where things went wrong and like they just looked like an absolute mess before he kind of abandoned it and went more pragmatic into the transition style. I think that, yeah, he might do it again after one match and really kind of see that this isn't quite working yet. And it still feels like if they're going to play this way, they still need like 2 or 3 additional players to kind of make this work. I know they just spent a ton of money on Casemiro, but it's like if you're going to play with this type of a single pivot, you need someone who's a little bit better on the ball than Casemiro. If you're going to play this, you need someone better than Wan-Bissaka, playing it right back. And it just still feels like this team is far away from the vision of, the amount of control and technical level that they need.
Yeah, I got to agree with this, by the way. All right, tell me in the chat, thumbs up, thumbs down, yes or no. Is Erik ten Hag good? Like, I don't think he's good. One of my favorite things I saw, there was a screenshot from the game against Wolves, and it was like 3 Manchester United players with the ball at their feet and 7 Manchester United players like 30 yards up the pitch from them. And someone else tweeted, they were like, and it was a perfect point. They're like, Erik ten Hag saw Pep and Mikel go with a back 3, 2 inverted fullbacks and a front 5 and decided to do it too without knowing why or how. That's what it looked like. It looked like, you ever try to emulate or approximate, like, I agree with this, Dustin Wynn. Like, you ever try to approximate something you've seen someone else do, but you don't actually know why or how they're doing? It's like me editing audio, right? I know there's a thing called a compressor. I just don't know what a compressor does. It says in my hands, it's not worth much. By the way, you want to talk about something that should be put in my hands. Remember when I once famously said, I am 37?
Yes.
Look at this feature that they gave me. Touch up my appearance.
Oh no!
I mean,
you look good.
Younger and younger by the minute. Now I look a little bit uncanny valley though, so I'll stop that. But yeah, like
all the people on TikTok where things are a little bit too. I mean, I'll turn on my light here so I can maybe look a little bit better.
No. Don't try to show me up, man. I really think compressors are a vital part of the refrigeration cycle. Obviously, I have no idea. By the way, thanks everyone who's here. Please gently, easily, lovingly caress or tap the like and subscribe button. Is something I'm supposed to tell you to do. Whatever you do, don't smash it. You have a lovely device. You don't need to break it. You don't need to smash it. The other thing I will tell you is we do 6 days a week of content over on Patreon, and we do it because we love you and we just want you to be happy and special and loved. And that means you get to be a disco boy, which means you get to be in the Discord. Welcome to all the lovely disco boys. This morning I woke up to what I usually find in the Discord. I don't know if you saw this, Scott. Today's thing I woke up to was them posting pictures of me they found on the internet and making fun of my appearance. So, just a normal one in the Discord.
I have been on the side of that as well, where they were photoshopping me into things and doing that kind of fun stuff. So always fun. I think we did get some comments already about that. I look like Mark Hoppus, which I'm going to take as an absolute compliment. I love the Blink 182. I've been told I have Bart Simpson hair too, because I like to make it look nice, and I still have hair. That's all I care about, right? I'm at my age. You get to a certain one where it's like I have hair. I'm proud and I'm happy.
I'm gonna stop the silliness just for 1 second because I didn't realize what this comment was gonna be. All I saw was the Patreon's my favorite thing. I put it on the screen. Then I see really got me through my mom's passing last year. So Gustavo, sorry for your loss. Our love to you, love from everybody here to you, and to get through it. So
no, that's really. I'm glad to have been able to give you some solace in our nonsense and being able to get going there.
Nonsense helps. Nonsense does help. Love to everybody. Love to Gustavo from everybody, because we are good people and we love you. Okay, so just as we wrap up on the United Spurs game, we'll set that aside for a moment. Love you, Elliot. Let's talk a little bit about this new rumor. Okay, you ready for it?
I'm ready.
Flow to Chelsea. What price would it take?
I kind of think you say 60 million pounds. Maybe you up it a little bit. I think we were targeting 50 is what I think we were saying. So 60 with some protection for the upside. So either a sell on or a buyback, something like that to help do it, right? So I think there's this weird thing where I know people don't like to sell to rivals, but then people also get mad that Arsenal aren't very good at selling. There's this weird thing that's developing in the soccer player economy, where there's like 8 teams in the world plus Saudi Arabia that have money, and 6 of them just happen to be in the Premier League. And if you want to be able to sell teams that have money for big fees, it is kind of one of those, you have to kind of bite the bullet and be willing to sell to a team that's your rival. I don't know. Where's you setting the price tag at, Elliot?
Good question. I don't know. What about Spurs? So here's the thing I'll say about this. Okay. In general, this is my philosophy on transfers, and you can tell me if I've got this wrong. Teams can buy good players. You're not the only place to get a good player. And unless you're talking about a Haaland or a Mbappe or, someone
a true
like
unicorn.
that. Right. A true unicorn. The idea that if Chelsea don't get flow, they won't be able to get a good player is silly. So my normal instinct is, if you can get good money for one of your players and you can use that money to make yourself better, don't worry about where you sold the player. Because if they don't buy your player, they're going to buy someone else's good player. It's just you're not going to get the money. However, my hatred for Chelsea and Spurs are such that any possibility of Balogun becoming a star at those 2 places is probably worth it to me to not sell him there. Now, I know that's not the smart business decision, but I've got to root for Arsenal and I've got to watch football for years to come, hopefully, assuming that, something terrible doesn't happen. These guitars don't fall off the wall on my head or something. So I don't want to watch Flo star for Chelsea, and I don't want to watch him star for Spurs. Again, I know that's not the smart business decision, because those 2 probably will give us more money than like a Monaco or even an Inter or something like that. But Scott, is there a point where you just say, whatever the benefit of selling that player is to those teams, it's not worth having to live in the future where that player potentially is good for those teams?
Absolutely, right. And then I don't know, there's, for both of us, I don't know how big of a USMNT fan you are, but there's also that potential like salt in the wound of like this guy could be a true like superstar for USA, and have to see him go and play at Chelsea or Spurs.
Oh, could you imagine if he goes to Spurs and every American is walking around wearing a Balogun Spurs shirt? Like,
yeah, it was bad enough to like see Pulisic, at Chelsea. At least like he like spent most of his time like doing like the Christian or the Bale, thing of I'm only going to be good for my team, and like I'm going to be always injured for my club team. So like that one was
there have been a lot of threats of Americans moving to Canada in the last so many years. Let me say, a bunch of Americans wearing Spurs shirts with Balogun on the back might push me to that.
It's just you can practically see Canada from your house too, right? You can just wave to them.
Yeah, I'm like, what's her name? Who could see Russia from her house?
Sarah Palin. That was a simpler time in American politics.
A sillier time back before we had all these serious politicians in our lives. Okay, so I think most people agree that like you just can't. Now, let me ask you this, Brad. When you say can't sell any player under 35 to Spurs, do you mean under 35 million or under 35 years old? Because if it's under 35 years old, I certainly agree with you. To Chelsea, 70 million, to Spurs, 100 million, and Levy has to wear a Trump wig for a year.
I'd be okay with that.
I could see that. You can see Russia from your backyard. Based on the fact that you're called Chicago Gooner, I'm going to call a little bit of bullshit on that, but that's okay. Okay, well, so I think we agree Flo to Chelsea or Spurs is probably a no. Let's get into this because people want to talk about it, and inevitably we'll want to talk. But we're going to talk Arsenal Palace coming up, by the way. Mm-hmm. But will Arsenal make another signing?
Probably. I think it depends. I think there's a wait and see if there's something that becomes available towards the end. I think we're going to be opportunistic. I think if something presents itself that's a good value, I think we got our must-make signings done early, and I think that looks like a genius move in hindsight with some of the craziness that has kind of happened. But things always kind of get a little bit wacky in that last week, and maybe there's a chance for another move to kind of happen, or we get some sales that maybe are better than what we expected, and we have a little bit more money to be able to do it. So I think that there's a chance. I'd say that I'm kind of like 50-50 right now that there's another signing that's potentially out there.
Interesting. So I think the sales have to happen first, right? There's a lot of sales that have to happen. So let's list that off and let's see what we think here. Do you think let's do a yes or no, and get in the chat with this too. Tierney going to go or going to stay?
I think he's going to go.
Okay.
Even with the Timber injury, I think that Tierney just doesn't fit the team anymore. And I think that it's just, you want to be fair to a player like that. And he's done a lot of good things. He hasn't, made a stink about really like, his lack of playing time, or even, kind of just being kind of like unfortunately demoted in the team. So I think you want to I think that's something that people will talk about players wise as a player, a team that is good for players, that if you come in with the right attitude. So I think that, you reward him, even if it's not necessarily the fee that we'd necessarily like to get.
I just don't see how Tierney stays. I don't think it's worth it for anybody. He's on a good wage that we could devote somewhere else. No matter how much we like Tierney, I think Tierney's been very likable for most people. I think due to the fact that he just hasn't played much and we've changed the way we played, as the kids say, he's kind of mid right now by our standards. Like he can't really play the kind of football we want. Now, Tierney's would be a great guy, I feel like, to have to bring on in the last 20 of games if you want an overlapping fullback to run the touchline, get crosses in, have a plan B. But on 120 grand a week at 27 years old in the prime of his career as a full international player, like he's not going to want that role. And I don't think it's fair to ask him to stay for that role. So I would agree that Tierney goes. What about Rob Holding?
I mean, at the current situation, he kind of feels like we need him. You think about, I think what Arteta said, that we need 8 defenders, and you kind of go through the counting, and I get to 7. And then I'm kind of like, well, I guess it's got to say Rob Holding. I think that he's on a wage that is probably fine and well suited for the role of in case of emergency type signing. I'm a little bit scared that we're kind of back that situation of one injury of him being the next in line. Don't love it, but I kind of think for right now, he has to be the insurance.
Yeah. I would let Holding go. I think
I would
sometimes
if the right fee came for him, I would not say no, because I think you can probably go figure out something. And I don't think the change in quality between him and say like a Walters or something like that we could make work would be huge. But yeah, I guess it depends on the fee.
for me, it boils down to this. Sometimes you need to take an option away from a manager. You know what I mean? Like any scenario where Rob Holding might start. And again, I've loved Rob Holding, the professional, and he's part of the leadership group, and I get all that. But any scenario where Rob Holding might start, I'd rather he not be at the club and someone else started, even if it was something like Declan Rice at center back, right? Even if it was
Or an
something
absolute like change of
makeshift.
formation, right?
Yeah. So let's look at it. At right back, you have White, you have Tomiyasu,
Yep.
you have Party nominally.
Yeah.
Okay. Then at left back, you have Zinchenko, Tomiyasu, Kivior.
Yeah.
And I guess Declan Rice, like this is the thing I keep thinking. If we want to play that three, White, Saliba, Gabriel, right? You can have Rice and Party as the two in front of them.
Right.
So you can do that in a game if you want to go with Rice kind of playing the Zinchenko role, because that role doesn't really play fullback in the truest sense. But we have seen at times when teams have exploited that. Setting that aside, I think Holding going, then your center back options are Gabriel Saliba, White, Tomiyasu, Kivior, right? So it's all the same people covering all the same positions.
Yes. That's where it's like it's one injury from Holding.
You're two injuries away from a crisis is basically what it boils down to, right? Yeah. Losing Timber is just one of those things. But I think going into the market to add a defender at this point, I would only do it in sort of like a David Luiz kind of player, you know, an experienced guy, good with the ball at his feet, who might be a nice emergency fill-in. I don't know that I want to go into the market for a full-time. Can I ask you a question about someone?
Yeah, please do.
Fresneda, Ivan Fresneda. We did a scouting video on Fresneda. That guy does not look ready. And I realize people love his talent, but we're not in a position right now to bring guys in who are project players. We need guys who all of a sudden you're starting away at Sheffield United and you need someone who can play our football at a good level. I just don't think Fresneda is nearly there yet.
Yeah, he's 18.
Yes,
and
to be clear, I'm saying bring back Socrates. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely not. But yeah, no, Fresneda like just looks raw. A lot more raw than Timber, who's not differently aged in that sense, but in the readiness, I think, to be thrown in for what we might be able to do. I think Fresneda has like obvious talent, like on the ball, being able to do some of the passing, but is just so far away from where I would be happy to see him on the team sheet to be able to do it. Like, right? Like I kind of look at some of the people we've been linked with. There's the Castagna links from the beginning of the summer, and it's like I think that's one where it's like you wouldn't necessarily love it, but I think he's at a level where if you had to play him, it's not the end of the world. There's a Simikan, who's another guy that we were linked with at the beginning of the summer, who I really like, as he's much more of a center back who can play right back. And I like that. So I think that's something that's interesting. But RB Leipzig are not in a spot where they are absolutely desperate to sell after seeing Gardeval and Soboslai already leave. So like that would not be a cheap move by any sense of the imagination. It just feels like we kind of have to wait and see a little bit. I know Pavard is one that that people are saying, but that looks like he's on his way to Inter. Laporte is going to Saudi Arabia. It's just
Laporte was one we were loosely linked with. I'm kind of glad we didn't do that. So I'm fine with that. I don't know. Ansu Fati, by the way, there's been some talk about that because Barcelona are signing João Felix from Atleti. Like the weirdest thing to
that's
me.
News. That's a really, really bizarre move, honestly, in my head.
Yeah, very bizarre. I don't know. I mean, look, it is the case, I think, interesting. Lamptey. Where is Lamptey? Didn't Lamptey go to Spurs or something, or Chelsea, or where?
Is he still at Brighton?
I feel like Lamptey was one of those guys who moved and then didn't play anywhere. Maybe he's still at Brighton. Was he injured? Yeah, he's still at Brighton. He didn't play a lot down the stretch. He may have been injured. I can't remember. That's actually a player that would be interesting. But again, I think more of the
does he fit anymore with the size of the team that we're
he's
trying
that
to go with?
touchline
That
fullback,
5'8"?
isn't he? You know, sprint past someone guy. Yeah, Lamptey more hurt than Tierney. That's really the issue. Well, okay, so we know the outgoings. Obviously, Pepe is not going to be part of the team. Cedric, ideally, is not going to be part of the team. Holding may go. Tierney may go. Flo Balogun may go. I think we might go for one more forward. I really think so. Can I ask you one more question? And guys, in the chat, I really want to get an opinion on this. Mikel has twice made a weird, scary reference to something unwanted could happen in the market. Something unwanted could happen in the market. He referenced it with injury once, said something can happen with injuries. Something you don't want can happen in the market. Is there a scary sale coming? And obviously the rumor, and I'll put it up as a banner, but not because I'm endorsing it, is, how do you spell Miguel Heiss? There you go. Miguel Heiss. Anyone? Maghals. Magalhaes, right?
I'm trying to look it up here, and I'm too slow.
Okay, we're gonna go with this. This is scary. This one is scary to me. I think I spelled that right. Can we just double check? Gabriel Magal. Oh no, I didn't spell it right. Absolute son of a.
This is just excellent spellbinding content here, right? Yeah.
I mean, what did people expect? This is pretty much par for the course, but we're gonna get it right. Magalhaes. All right, there we go. Got it. Done.
Yeah, we got the.
All right.
Yep.
So what are your thoughts on this? There were some rumors of Saudi Arabia, and like, honestly, I think it's nonsense. I can't imagine it happening, but it does scare me a little bit, just given those comments that Mikel has made. What do we think?
I think at this stage of the transfer window, like, there's no way that can happen. That there's just, I don't think you can get even close to a replacement right now. And I just don't think that there's any way that we would sanction it. I mean, like, is there a way for him to throw like a big enough fit to force the move? I hope not. But like, if this had happened in July, like, maybe that's something that you can do it. I know I need to close the closet door all the way.
I keep waiting for like a clown to climb out from that. You know, like, see claws come out from the side of it and just pull the door open.
Yeah, right. That's a good idea for next time, right?
That would be pretty funny if you had someone hiding in there in like
some glowing eyes,
costume,
like, just kind of come back. But yeah, I think if the timing of a Gabriel transfer just isn't right for it to actually happen right now, like if this, came up at the beginning of July or even like the middle of July, where there's time to really think through a move, I think that's something that you happen. But with his age, with his contract status, I think Arsenal are in that position to where, like, we're not going to have our hand forced here. I don't know. Did you see something different there?
He did get a call up, by the way. I think, is that his first Brazil call up? Him and Martinelli both got called up. Not surprising about that. An interesting one I haven't heard hypothesized. It's Jorginho. We haven't really seen much of Jorginho, and
there's been some links with him away. I don't think that we would say. I don't think there's been I don't think we'd say no to a move like that. I don't think that's like an earth-shattering one. Maybe if there is a Jorginho move, that is one where you talk about some of the links with a 6 as something that's still on our radar. I think that would, you kind of put 2 and 2 together there.
Welcome, Jay. Thanks for coming. We're glad you're here. You missed some spellbinding fun with spelling. You missed that. That was a good time. I say this. I don't think it'll be Magalhaes. So what about Thomas Partey? Partey, Jorginho, Rice. We need Partey, Jorginho, Rice. I actually think that's true. I think Jorginho has a role to play, and I think he could be really important finishing games in particular. I also think it's worth noting, again, Thomas Partey is off in January to the AFCON. Based on Thomas Partey's finishes to seasons lately anyway, and that he's 30 now, we kind of have to just assume who knows how he'll come back from the AFCON and when and in what shape. Because second half of the season, international duty for Thomas Partey has spelled the end of 2 seasons in a row. Okay? I think we have to have Jorginho in in that time frame.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I think we're in trouble. Could you see Party going though, just full on going?
I mean, at this stage again, I don't think so. It'd have to be, I think, a really good offer for Arsenal to entertain it. So, because I think there was some serious, discussions and thoughts around that early in the transfer window. The talk of Juventus, the talk of going to Saudi Arabia,
Mm.
but it feels like nobody came close to the valuation. Because I think right now, like, he is just a lot more valuable to what we're able to try to do this year, right? Because this is really a chance for us to push for a title that we haven't done in 20 years. And I think that even if this is, you think about what a smart business decision might be, like, oh, you gotta sell your asset here, be able to max it out, because next year it's going to be worth even less. Like, so, like, from that business perspective, like, selling now might make sense. But from our sporting perspective, I don't think you can make a justification for it at all.
Yeah, look, I think it's this. I think it's this simple. Just from a pure footballing standpoint, which is all we're talking about in this moment, Thomas Partey is as important a part of the team as any of the signings we made. Like, Declan Rice will go on to be one of the great midfielders in the league, I believe,
Mhm.
and for many years probably be our six. But we're not talking about many years. We're talking about this season. And I think the idea that Declan Rice is ready to just fully replace Thomas Partey right now is a leap of faith that I'm not ready to make. And I think it would be a real problem. Because the other thing is, again, this is really important. The way Rice has played in his whole career is in that left half space. I realize on the screen I have to do this, right? In the left half
Yeah.
space. And Thomas Partey plays in that right half space. And that difference relates to how all of the players interact on the pitch, because Partey, right, in that right half space is closer to Odegaard. It brings Saka into the game. It creates that triangle on the right-hand side, right? It allows White to decide if he wants to invert or go more up the wing to support. If we're going to go with Rice on the left-hand side, this is hard
Mhm.
to figure out the backwards because this is my right, but you get the idea. On the left-hand side on your screen, then suddenly you're inverting does White invert? And then is the ball moving through Rice, which means now suddenly it's going to Havertz and Martinelli, which is no bad thing, by the way, but is Saka now the off the ball forward, right, who comes in on the backside of plays? It really mirror images the whole way we built our team. I don't know. I think it's just a weird thing. By the way, I got to agree with Jen here. Says, like the damn stream and do it gently. I'll pop the banner up so nobody makes any mistakes here. What do you think about that dynamic? Just the fact that Rice and Partey, while Rice could eventually take the Partey role, he's used to doing it from the left half space, not the right half space. And that changes the whole dynamic of how we do things.
I think that is a really interesting, thought there, right? Because it's like we've gotten so used to this style of play, and we saw trying to make a change last weekend. There's always growing pains with trying new things, and it's trying to find that balance of being able to introduce new things while not breaking the old things that brought you to this level. So I think it would certainly destabilize and just lower the floor, I think, of this team right now. And that's where I think, like, sporting wise, like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, it would have to be something that would absolutely blow you over as a move, to where you could, maybe then, make a different move in the market that, you wouldn't anticipate being able to do. It's just so hard to imagine it.
Yeah. All right. Let's do this. Let's get to the Palace Arsenal preview section, because I think this is obviously the most important thing we have going on this weekend. First of all, it just really sucks to be playing on Monday, 1 week into the
Yeah.
season, like having to wait till Monday. I hate that. Monday night under the lights at Palace. I feel like we always play Palace at night. I feel like we never get a nice little 3 p.m. Saturday kickoff at Palace. So be it. I think their fullbacks stink. I think their right side of the left side of their defense, that Martinelli and Havertz them are going to be attacking. Like, what is it? It's 34-year-old Jordan Ayew and 33-year-old their fullbacks, like 32 or 33. That feels like a weakness. But the question that everybody's going to, oh yeah, and this is important, by the way, Olise is injured, so he's not going to be available. I mean, their whole team runs through Eze.
Yeah, so they had
And
Joel Ward and IU on that right hand side for them last year, or the last time, and like, that is not good per se.
yeah. Gay and Anderson are really good and really good distributors. Anderson killed us with his distribution in the last game. That's something we're going to have to be really mindful of. I think, Scott, the thing that was most impressive about us week one, right? Match week one against Forest was our counter pressing for about the first 50, 55 minutes. We are going to have to absolutely strangle Anderson. We're going to have to absolutely strangle their back line when they get the ball so that he can't just tee up passes up to Eze and Edouard, right?
Yeah.
So we got to prevent that. I think if we can do that, we'll be good. But come on, let's talk about it. Is David Raya going to start? Is he our number one? I had a weird thought, right? At first, I've always thought through this whole saga, and you guys let me know if you think it's going to be Raya or Ramsdale. I think it'll be Ramsdale for the record, but I did have a weird thought. This whole time I thought Ramsdale will probably just keep the job. Raya will start in cups and we'll see if he can win the job. Then I watched like 17 generations of Rayas come in for his signing and the grandpa get a shirt with his name on it and the hugs. And I'm like, are you doing this for a backup guy? I didn't see that happen for when Turner signed. There weren't 17 generations of Turners in Colney. So do you think that Ramsdale is under big pressure?
I mean, I think he's absolutely under pressure, but I think that there's going to be an incident that you'd have to be able to kind of like point to take him out of the lineup right now. And I just don't think that happened. I thought he was fine against Forest. I don't think he made a mistake or anything like that. Like the one goal they scored, like you can't blame that on Ramsdale. Oh, he should have kept that out or anything like that. Like, right. Like that's a lot more fresh legs versus tired legs. That was kind of the problem with that goal per se. So I think that I know that it's a loan in name, but this doesn't feel like a loan. Like I think you absolutely like nailed it there where like the pomp and circumstance, like you don't do that for a guy that's only here for a year. So I think there is something that might be kind of brewing to be able to have him come in. But I think that there's going to be something that he has to earn his spot or Ramsdale has to lose his spot. Like I think that has to be something that happens first. So I think, we'll see Raya his first chance, but in the League Cup coming up, although we have a bye in the first round of the League Cup. So we'll have to wait a little bit longer before he might get his chance. So we might get a Champions League or something that he comes in.
Was this, am I remembering correctly that I think the way it happened is when we bought Ramsdale, Leno kept the job until the international break. And then coming out of the international break was Ramsdale. Is that how it went? I think that's how it went. And now you got some people saying the same thing could happen this time. Look, the data on Raya is better than Ramsdale. I have this thing about Ramsdale that I think maybe the competition helps him. Can I ask you something, Scott? Can you think of any situation in the Premier League? Because I could think, I mean, maybe was it Barca or Real Madrid have had this, but like, can you think of a Premier League situation where a really top end number one keeper had a really top end number one keeper brought in addition to him? There was a battle for the position and it helped them, didn't hurt them. Like, can you think of a scenario where there was a genuine keeper competition that made both better? Because I'm struggling to think of one.
I don't know. Like, it's not something that I think teams spend a lot of time working or doing. It's kind of you bring in a player to, I think the Barcelona one with Ter Stegen and Bravo, while Bravo was kind of at the end of his career, was the only one that really kind of that I can remember off the top of my head, or at least kind of really sticks with me. But it's just a weird situation where I think a lot of teams don't put a lot of investment into their number two keeper because it's just, like you always said, the refrigerator stuff, right? You don't necessarily need to high-end refrigerators. You're happy with the hand-me-down in the garage to keep the beer in, to be able to do those kinds of things. So it feels like this is only going to be a 1-year kind of situation, I think, for Arsenal. I don't think that regardless of who wins, I don't think both of them stick around. But on the other parts of the pitch, we don't worry about that. But when this happens on the other parts of the pitch, like we don't necessarily worry about that. So I don't know why we think that goalkeepers are so special, fragile people to be able to not handle it, right? Like if we brought in, another striker competition for Gabriel Jesus, like, I don't know, we don't freak out necessarily about that. Oh, this is going to ruin Jesus's mentality that we brought in Kai Havertz, who might be able to, try to take his spot, or, being able to do those kinds of things. Or, we're not worried about Thomas Partey, freaking out that he's going to lose his position to Declan Rice. So it's like, I don't think that goalkeepers are that special or that weird that they can't handle the competition to be able to do it. I think it's only a 1 year thing. I don't know. Am I wrong?
No, I honestly don't know. The problem with like looking at the past to give you a sense of the future is just because something was done a certain way for a long time doesn't mean it's the right way to do it or there isn't a better way. And I think Clive actually made a really good point, which is not unusual. Keepers used to their job was to keep the ball out of the net and punt it long.
Mm-hmm.
They now play football.
Yeah.
And because they play football, maybe we should start thinking of them like footballers who can be rotated, and there can be different ones because they are a part of the way you play the game with the ball at your feet. So maybe we need to start thinking of them in that way. And it may be the case. Look, used to be, Scott, if your number one keeper went out for a bit, you just brought in the other guy and hope he didn't chuck it in the net.
Absolutely.
But nowadays, if your number one keeper goes out, you're losing a ball player. And if you then have a backup who can't play with the ball at his feet, a major part of the way you want to approach the game is impacted. So maybe we have to think about that. By the way, Forest already 1-0 up. I actually think Forest were decent against us. Let's be honest.
I really like
really good compact, really good on the counter. And Awoniyi and Gibbs White are here you go, are a problem, are good.
Yeah, I like Awoniyi a lot. I think he is a very, very good player. I know they like to play a lot of Brennan Johnson, but like there's just something about him that I don't rate. And I really think Awoniyi is a superior player, and I think that they should get him a lot more involved when he's there.
All right, let's do this. Let's before we run out of time here, we'll go for a few more minutes so that we can do this. I
put together just a short one today of what we have here. So this is
all right, Crystal Palace. Our opponents on Monday. Come on, everybody, get excited about this. We're gonna look at some pretty pictures. Come on. Here we go.
Yep. Just a nice, quick, easy one. Just looking again at what they did. They were a bit of a mess. Overall, what we're doing here in attack, they are not good. Although against Sheffield, which again, you kind of think about the level of team that they're playing, they looked, I think, pretty good, but still only had the one goal. I'm not expecting them to be a massive threat. On defense, though, they looked pretty good overall last season. I think it even got better when Roy Hodgson took over to be able to get in there. I still expect this to be a tough match to overall, but you're going to make me feel like I've got like vertigo bouncing up and down on a trampoline. I mean, they're a solid, like kind of mid-table-ish team where this is not an easy match.
Okay. They are what? Pretty.
This is from this season. So this is the one where against Sheffield United, they did really well, actually controlling. They pressed them well, kept Sheffield United from being able to progress the ball much, and kind of looked like a press and possess team, surprisingly, almost there. Actually playing a little bit slower than even Arsenal there. So you could see Arsenal just a bit above them on the speed towards goal.
Yeah. Jordan Ayew, again, I want to tell you his birthday's coming up. I think he's turning 46. So happy birthday, Jordan Ayew. Okay, this is just through week one? Worth remembering Palace played a terrible team in their first game,
Yeah. So absolutely massive amounts of salt taken here. But they at least they took care of business again, a game that they absolutely should have. So I think that's a positive that you would take from this match. But can we just laugh at United too, like being, towards the bottom, even though they got the win? So fun
Manchester United, not good at football. Makes me very happy. Okay. Yeah. These are the odds. This is the fun stuff. What do we got here?
Arsenal, obviously heavy favorites here, just under 2.2 expected points overall, actually right at 2.2. Lots of 2-1s, 3-1s are the more likely results here. I think that's probably what we'll see. I'd really like to see a clean sheet. I think Ramsdale, if he wants to keep Raya away, we'll try to do that. But this is another big opportunity for Arsenal to get the fast start and keep it going.
Yeah, well, we'll see how it goes. I think we can sort of wrap it up because there is another game going on right now, and I don't want to keep people from it. But we can't wrap it up Do we have a 1-1?
I think that was another high probability event there.
I get it. Okay, never mind. All right, so let's do it. It's prediction time. You got to get your predictions in. So here we go. Get your predictions in. Scott, what do you got as a prediction?
I think I'm going to go 3-0 to the Arsenal. I think I'm going to be a happy Monday lunchtime for me.
Yeah, I mean, I really think we can kill them on the edges. And that's where we're good, right? I have no idea how we'll set up. And I always think that we're going to be a little vulnerable on the counter. But I do think that we'll. So you're going with a 3-0, huh?
I think so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of 2-0s. We don't keep clean sheets, but we were very, very good defensively away last season.
Yeah. And even against Forest, right? Like we absolutely dominated that game, and really like there was one fluky chance and one off of a counter or an attacking corner, right? Like, so I think that's the one where like I am not taking any worries about the defense from the Forest match.
Want to make a quick prediction on lineup or who will start, who won't?
I think we see Zinchenko come in. I'm feeling pretty confident. The tea leaves from the press conference seem that he's looking good. He was able to play in the behind closed doors match against Luton. So I think we'll see Zinchenko come in for Timber. I think we might see Trossard for Eddie. He also, you talk about, Arteta really kind of seeing what he does on the training pitch, and supposedly he also scored a brace in that behind closed door match. So I think it's going to be Trossard. I think we'll see Rice and Partey in the midfield as well.
Then I don't.
So no Havertz. So no Havertz.
Oh, no Havertz. So
no Havertz.
Rice will take up that left 8 role.
Yep.
You think that's going to be sort of an away thing that Havertz doesn't start? I got to tell you something. Did you see Mikel's hug for Havertz picture that was going around like after the City game? Like he loved him. I think maybe we'll see Havertz start up front. I think
it's going to be it's really exciting, right? Like we're looking forward to an hour before kickoff now.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And what's nice is we're not looking for an hour before kickoff to make sure no one crappy is playing. We're seeing which of our good players are playing. I think Trossard probably has a right to it. Opening day, we were good, but we were a little rusty around the penalty area. I think we could have sharpened up there, and we lost some energy and power in our legs around the 60-minute mark. But I think this could be a big one. Palace have to try to play a little at home. I don't think they have the quality on the edges where we can really hurt them. I'm going to go with a 4-1 to Arsenal. Maybe one of those things where it's a couple of goals early, they peg us back, and then we pull away as they try to come at us a bit more to win it. So I'll go with a 4-1. I think it'd be lovely to see that. I would take a jammy 1-0 and a 97th minute penalty, but I'll go with 4-1 because why not? We have never made it easy at Selhurst Park. Like I can't remember the last time we had an easy game there. I think it's time. I think we're overdue. Let's say goodbye there. Enjoy watching Forest. Is it Forest Sheffield United? Is that the game that's on right now?
It is indeed.
Of course, we never say goodbye without saying we love you. Thank you so much, everybody. Love you all so much for being here. And we'll try to make this a weekly occasion so that we can all spend some time together. And we will have our instant reaction pod after the Palace game. We've got a preview of the Women's World Cup final up on Patreon right now. So wherever you watch, we love you. Hey, if you could drop us a like, that'd be nice. I think we had 600, 700 of you on here at a time, depending on where you're watching. So, even just a like or two would be welcome. But anyway, we love you so much. Scott's on Twitter at Scott J. Willis, where you soon will not be able to block him. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
My name is Elliot Smith. And while you can still block me on Twitter, I recommend it, but we don't know how much longer you'll be able to do that. So, just hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. I hope you enjoy watching those other non-Arsenal crappy teams be crappy. And then ease into your Monday knowing that you got some Arsenal to look forward to. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Hope you're happy. Hope you're healthy. Hope you're well. Gustavo, sorry for your loss. Love you, man. Love everybody. We'll talk to you after Arsenal 10. Palace nil.